I want you to imagine something with me. You're standing on a beam, one foot in front of the other, arms stretched out, trembling. The ground below. It's not the ground, it's 1,000 feet down, and you're trying to balance. Your heart's pounding. Sweat's running down your face. Every muscle in your body is tight, tense, screaming, don't fall. Don't you dare fall. That's balance. And you know what balance really is? Balance is fear. See, people say they want balance in life. They want to keep it steady. They want to play it safe. They want to stay comfortable. But let me tell you something. Balance is not safety. Balance is not peace. Balance is a constant battle not to fall. And here's the truth. Most folks don't want to hear when you're chasing balance, you're not chasing growth. You're chasing avoidance. Think about it. The only reason you're trying to balance is because you're afraid of going too far in one direction, afraid of falling, afraid of failing, afraid of what happens if you lean in too much. But greatness has no interest in balance. Greatness is about leaning so far forward you scare yourself. Greatness is about running so hard you're out of breath, heart thundering, legs burning, and you still keep going. Now don't get me wrong. I'm not saying live reckless. I'm saying live fearless. There's a difference. Reckless is blind. Fearless is focused. And the problem with balance is it keeps you in the middle. And the middle is where dreams go to die. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I met a man who told me he had the perfect balanced life. He had a stable job, a nice house, a predictable schedule, no risks, no surprises, everything steady. But when he talked about his life, you know what I saw? His eyes were empty. His voice was flat. His soul had retired long before his body ever would. Because balance, his kind of balance, was just fear wearing a suit. He wasn't balanced. He was stuck. See, balance is a nice word, but in the real world, it often means I'm afraid to give more to my dreams because it might cost me my comfort. And here's what I've learned. If you give 50% to your dream, you'll get 50% results. If you give 100%, your life will never be the same. But if you keep trying to balance your dream with your fears will win every single time. Because balance doesn't mean equal weight. Balance means equal fear, equal pull in both directions. And fear loves balance because balance means you're not moving forward. Now, some of you are thinking, but I have responsibilities. I can't just go all in. I get it. We all have responsibilities. But here's the truth. The people depending on you need you to become the best, most alive version of yourself, not the most balanced one. Your kids don't need to watch you settle. They need to watch you soar. Your spouse doesn't need you to just get by. They need to see you come alive again. And the world doesn't need another careful person holding the middle line. It needs your fire, your voice, your full self. But that requires something balance doesn't allow. It requires leaning. Lean toward your calling until you feel that fear rise in your chest. That fear is proof you're out of balance and into growth. Lean into the work until you can't see the shore. That's where your real strength shows up. Lean so far into your dream that you have no choice but to swim harder than you've ever swum before. See, fear will tell you, stay steady, stay safe, stay in the middle. But passion will tell you, run. Purpose will tell you, jump. And faith will whisper, I've got you. And here's the crazy thing. When you stop trying to balance, life actually gets easier. Because you're not fighting to stay in the middle anymore. You've chosen your direction, and you're moving with conviction. You can't chase a dream while keeping one foot on the brake. You can't fly while trying to keep one wing tied to the ground. And you can't live fully while trying to balance fear and faith in equal measure. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt off balance in a way that made you come alive? When was the last time you chased something so hard you forgot to be afraid? When was the last time you stepped so far into the unknown that you had no choice but to grow wings on the way down? That moment, that's the moment you remember forever. I don't know what your dream is. I don't know what fear has been whispering to you at night. But I know this, the life you want isn't in the balance. It's in the leap. And yes, the leap is scary. You might fall. You might fail. You might even crash. But I'll tell you something. The only thing worse than falling is standing still, staring at the edge for the rest of your life, wondering what would have happened if you just had the courage to jump. So no, balance is not the goal. Balance is the excuse. Balance is the disguise fear wears to make you feel reasonable, rational, safe. But the truth is, it's keeping you from the very thing you were born to do. Life will never give you perfect balance. There will always be chaos. There will always be risk. There will always be fear. But fear is not the enemy. Comfort is. Because comfort will keep you balanced until the day you wake up and realize you never really lived. So today, I want you to make a decision. I want you to lean so far toward your dream that you can't go back. Lean until the fear is loud, then step through it. Lean until the balance breaks and you're running toward the life you were meant for. Because the truth is, balance is fear. And you were never meant to live afraid. You were meant to live fully, fiercely, unapologetically. Now, go get off that beam and run. When people talk about balance, they often say it like it's a badge of honor. I just want a balanced life. They say, as if that's the highest achievement possible. But if you look closer, if you listen between the lines, you'll often find that balance is just a polite word for hesitation. It's a safe way of saying, I don't want to go too far in case it doesn't work out. Balance becomes a shelter where fear can hide without being called by its real name. Think about it. Balance means you're constantly measuring, constantly checking, constantly adjusting, so you don't tip too far in one direction. It's a posture of self-protection. It's a way of living where the main goal is not to lose. And when your number one goal is to not lose, you're already playing small. You're playing not to get hurt rather than playing to win. Fear loves balance because balance keeps you busy without letting you move too far forward. It's like being on a tightrope. All your energy is going into staying upright. You're not leaping. You're not sprinting. You're not flying. You're inching forward, eyes fixed on the rope, never looking up to see the horizon. Fear knows that if it can keep you there, it doesn't have to stop you outright. It just has to keep you cautious, careful, controlled. But growth doesn't happen in the careful middle. Growth lives in the lean. Growth happens when you throw your weight in one direction and commit. It's in the moments when you say, I'm all in. No plan B, no safe exit. I'm leaning so far into this that the only way out is forward. When you lean, you risk falling. And that's exactly why you grow. Because falling teaches you more than standing still ever could. Leaning requires courage. It means you choose a side, a dream, a mission, and you put more into it than feels comfortable. It means you give more time, more energy, more of yourself than the balanced version of you would ever dare. It means you push so far that fear starts screaming, what if this doesn't work? And instead of stepping back into balance, you say, what if it does? When you lean, you discover something fear doesn't want you to know. You can catch yourself. You can adapt mid-fall. You can land on your feet after the unexpected. You can survive the unknown. And once you know that, fear loses its grip. Balance is often praised because it feels sensible. But sensible doesn't change lives. Sensible doesn't build movements. Sensible doesn't break records or rewrite stories. The people who make history, The ones who live lives worth remembering, they don't live in balance. They live in the lean. They choose the thing that matters most, and they go after it with everything they've got, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's risky, even when it scares them. Fear is sneaky. It will tell you that balance is maturity. It will tell you that leaning is reckless. But the truth is, leaning is commitment. Leaning is clarity. Leaning is the moment you say, this matters more than my comfort. This matters more than looking sensible to other people. This matters more than playing it safe. When you look back over your life, the moments that changed everything for you weren't the moments you played it balanced. They were the moments you leaned in, took the shot, made the call, stepped out when it wasn't certain. Those moments carried risk, but they also carried the possibility for transformation. And transformation never comes from balance. It comes from the lean. Most people think the greatest enemy of a dream is failure. They imagine the big crash, the public embarrassment, the financial loss, the emotional hit, and they decide that's what they need to avoid at all costs. But in reality, it's not failure that robs the world of the most potential. It's comfort. Comfort is quiet, subtle, and patient. It doesn't come at you head on like failure does. It creeps in slowly, wraps around you like a warm blanket, and whispers, "You're fine right here. No need to push further." And before you know it, years pass. The fire you once had is down to embers, and the dream you carried has withered away without a fight. Failure is at least honest. Failure announces itself. You know when you failed, you feel it, and it forces you to make a decision, get up and try again, or quit entirely. And many times, failure becomes the very thing that makes people stronger, sharper, more resilient. But comfort doesn't push you to get up because it never knocks you down. It convinces you there's no reason to stand in the first place. Comfort is dangerous because it feels good. It's disguised as stability, security, and peace. It tells you that you've made it because things are easy. But ease doesn't always mean you're on the right path. Sometimes it's a sign you've stopped moving. Dreams require movement, hunger, and sometimes desperation. Comfort takes away the hunger. It lets you settle for good enough instead of demanding extraordinary. Think about how many ideas, inventions, books, businesses, and life changes have died in the comfort zone. Not because the person couldn't do it, but because they didn't want to disrupt their routine. They didn't want to risk their predictable paycheck, their free evenings, their weekends off. They didn't want to face uncertainty, so they chose the familiar, and comfort rewarded them with calm days and quiet nights. But no fire, no thrill, no purpose. What makes comfort so lethal is that it asks for nothing in return. It doesn't require sacrifice. It doesn't test you. And humans, by nature, tend to follow the path of least resistance. If there's no immediate pain, no obvious threat, no pressing urgency, it's easy to keep putting off the thing you know you were meant to do. Comfort allows you to delay. And the more you delay, the more the dream fades until you almost forget you ever had it. Failure can be fuel. Comfort is a slow poison. Failure gives you lessons. Comfort gives you excuses. And the scariest part is that you can live your entire life in comfort and never realize you've missed your potential until it's too late to do something about it. That's why so many people hit a certain age and feel a heavy regret. Not because they tried and failed, but because they never truly tried at all. You have to treat comfort like a trap, because that's exactly what it is for someone with a dream. It's a gilded cage. Beautiful, secure, and easy to stay in, but it keeps you from flying. The bars aren't made of steel. They're made of convenience, predictability, and the small pleasures that keep you just satisfied enough not to reach higher. The door is always open, But you convince yourself it's safer inside, so you never walk out. The truth is, your dream will always demand you leave comfort behind. It will ask you to stay up late, wake up early, risk money, risk reputation, risk failure. It will push you into rooms where you feel unqualified and into situations where the outcome is uncertain. That's the cost of building something worth having. Comfort will never demand that from you, but it will make you pay in the long run with a life that feels smaller than it could have been. Commitment doesn't work in fractions. A dream, a goal, a mission. These things demand your full weight, your full energy, your full focus. When you go in halfway, you're already preparing an escape route. You're telling yourself, I'll give this a shot, but I'm keeping something back, just in case. That, just in case, is the crack where fear, doubt, and hesitation slip in. And once they slip in, they grow. When you're only half in, you still have one foot in safety. You're keeping part of yourself anchored in the familiar because the unknown is uncomfortable. But dreams aren't built from safety. They're built from risk, from the willingness to burn the boats. So there's no turning back. Going halfway is like planting a seed, but never watering it enough to grow. You're doing the motion, but you're not giving it what it needs to thrive. People convince themselves that giving 50% is enough to see how it goes before deciding whether to go all the way. But that's the trap. You can't measure the results of something you've never fully committed to. The lack of results from your 50% effort will convince you the dream doesn't work, when in reality, it's your level of commitment that failed, not the dream itself. When you're all in, you behave differently. You make decisions faster because there's no option to retreat. You push through fear because you've already decided there's no going back. You work harder because your name, your time, your energy, and your reputation are already invested. That kind of focus changes outcomes. It changes you. Being halfway also divides your energy. You're constantly splitting attention between your dream and whatever else you're clinging to for security. That split means neither side gets the best of you. And when you're not at your best, you create average results in both. You never find out what you're truly capable of because you've never concentrated your full strength in one direction. The reason so many people get stuck is because halfway feels safer. You get to test the waters without jumping in. You can always tell yourself, I didn't fail. I just didn't give it my all. That way, you protect your ego. But that protection is an illusion because you still live with the knowledge that you never really tried. That regret doesn't go away. It sits there quietly, reminding you that you chose to protect your pride instead of your purpose. Going all in doesn't mean you throw out wisdom or preparation. It means you stop treating your dream like a side project. You stop negotiating with your own excuses. You stop holding back energy for later and give what you've got now. Because the moment you decide you're in, no matter what, your mind stops looking for an exit and starts looking for a way forward. There's a different fire that comes when you remove your safety nets. You work with urgency. You focus with intensity. You stop wasting time because every moment counts. And in that space, you discover new levels of creativity, resilience, and determination. You find solutions you never would have needed to find if you kept the safety nets in place. You grow into the person your dream requires you to become. Half measures never built anything that lasted. They create the illusion of progress without the reality of transformation. If you want something to truly work, you can't be halfway in, because halfway is already halfway out. Fear doesn't always show up loud. It doesn't always push you to run away or quit outright. Sometimes it's far more subtle. It convinces you to settle. It whispers, don't go too far. Don't push too hard. Just stay where it's safe. And in doing so, it plants you right in the middle, where nothing truly extraordinary happens. The middle is a place of comfort, predictability, and low risk. But it's also where dreams slowly fade because there's never enough momentum to bring them to life. The middle feels safe because it keeps you out of extremes. You're not too far ahead to risk standing out, and you're not too far behind to feel like you're failing. You're doing fine, and fine is one of the most dangerous places to live because it gives you just enough to quiet the discomfort of wanting more. Fear loves that because it knows you'll stop reaching. You'll trade the thrill of chasing something bigger for the security of knowing nothing will really go wrong. What fear understands and hopes you'll never realize is that the middle is a form of slow decline. You're not actively falling, but you're not climbing either. You're staying in a holding pattern, circling the same territory over and over again. Eventually, the energy you once had to chase more begins to fade. You start to accept good enough as the limit of what's possible. And before long, you forget what great even looked like. Fear doesn't want you to go to the edges because the edges are where you discover your real power. It's in the moments of full pursuit, in the all or nothing pushes that you grow. It's when you risk falling that you find out you can fly. The edges force you to commit, to sharpen your focus, to become resourceful. The middle never demands that from you, so you never see just how much you're capable of. Aiming for the middle also robs you of passion. You can't pour your heart into something you're only halfway chasing. The middle requires you to hold back, to measure every move, to avoid leaning too much in one direction. It keeps you cautious when what you need is boldness. It keeps you thinking about the safe route when what you need is the straight path to your goal, no matter how steep. Many people convince themselves the middle is balance or wisdom. But balance without forward movement is just stagnation dressed up as discipline. Wisdom isn't about avoiding extremes. It's about knowing when to go all in. The middle can make you feel mature, responsible, and reasonable, but those feelings are often just comfort in disguise. And comfort is the breeding ground where fear thrives. When you aim for the middle, you're not giving fear much to fight against. You're not challenging it. You're not pushing through it. You're simply letting it dictate the terms of your life. Fear wins not because it overpowered you, but because it convinced you to play small without you even realizing it. The middle is where fear can sit back and relax, knowing it doesn't have to work very hard to keep you from taking real risks. The truth is, the middle is the most crowded place there is. It's where most people live, safe, unseen, and untested. The edges are where the breakthroughs happen, but they're also where fear shouts the loudest. And fear counts on the fact that most people will choose to quiet the shouting by stepping back into the middle instead of pushing forward into the unknown. Balance keeps you steady, but it also keeps you limited. When you're balanced, you're carefully controlling every move, making sure nothing tips too far in any direction. You're avoiding extremes, avoiding risks, avoiding the unknown. And in that state, you learn a little, but you never learn what you're truly capable of. The leap is different. The leap throws you into the air with no guarantee of how you'll land. And that's exactly why it teaches you more. When you leap, you enter a space where you have to respond, adapt, and create solutions on the spot. There's no room to overthink because you're already in motion. You can't plan every variable. You have to trust yourself to figure it out as you go. That's where real growth happens. You find out how resourceful you can be, how much strength you actually have, and how resilient your spirit is when the ground is rushing up to meet you. Balance is predictable. It's the same steps, the same adjustments, the same controlled breathing to keep yourself from falling. But predictability rarely creates transformation. The leap breaks the pattern. It forces you into experiences that balance would never allow, because balance always asks, what if I fall? While the leap asks, what might I gain? The lessons from a leap are sharper because they're earned under pressure. You might discover that what you thought would break you actually made you stronger. You might realize that the landing doesn't matter as much as the fact that you jumped at all. You learn to move even when you don't have every answer. You learn that waiting for certainty means you'll wait forever. And that courage is a muscle built only through use. Leaping exposes you to failure, yes, but it also exposes you to possibility. Balance can't do that. Balance is about preserving what you already have. The leap is about discovering what you could have if you let go of what's keeping you in place. The leap may not always land you where you expected, but it will always take you somewhere new. And in that new space, you encounter opportunities, people, and perspectives that balance would have kept out of reach. Fear tries to convince you to choose balance because it feels safer. But safety is often just a slower form of loss. You lose time, potential, and chances you'll never see again. The leap may be dangerous, but it's also alive. It carries the pulse of possibility, the electricity of the unknown. That energy changes you in ways the careful, measured steps of balance never will. You can spend years perfecting your balance, walking the same tightrope, keeping everything steady, but you'll always be walking the same line. The leap gives you new lines to walk, new skills to master, and new levels of belief in yourself. Even if you stumble, even if you crash, you're still further along than you were before you jumped. What the leap really teaches you is that you are more adaptable than you think. It shows you that you can survive what you once thought would destroy you, and that survival changes your definition of what's possible. The leap doesn't just build your courage. It transforms your identity. It turns, I hope I can, into, I know I can, because you've proven it in motion, not in theory.